welcome back to Decker's Nursery. I want to thank everybody for watching the videos, and I wanted to take time today and share a new product that we've ordered earlier in the season. I think this is a solution for those of you that want to grow some vegetables and herbs but don't have a large area to do a full-blown garden. So we're always looking for ways to inspire our customers to find other ways to enjoy their time working with plants. So recently I've been able to pick up this product. It's called a Flex Space Garden. So this is the Flex Space Garden that we have. We have them available at the store right now. It comes in 5 different pieces. We have the 3 basins that are collapsible, and they open up like an accordion. They click into shape, and then we have 2 sets of legs to design these any way we want. If you have a little more room, this one can come off to the side. But for today's presentation, I really wanted to show the convenience of working with a very small space. And as you can see, I have a very diverse selection of plants that we're going to make work into this garden. There'll be very little weeding in this garden because there's not going to be any room for them. So it's a concept that's very effective, and Pam Ireland helped me put this together, so we're going to share all of her tips with you today. One of the very important things to be aware of is these containers come with a tray in the base, and they don't have drainage. So if you're going to plant flowers, vegetables, you always have to have drainage in a container. So the spots are marked at the base of the tray, and you just take a power drill with a 3/8 inch or 1/2 inch drill bit, and you just drill 8 times into the bottom of each tray. So the other 2 bins are pre-drilled, and it literally just takes a few minutes, but it's critical to being successful. If the water doesn't drain out, the roots won't develop. You'll get anaerobic conditions. That's when the soil smells really bad, and we've all had that experience. So you have to let the water drain out. So wherever you store the garden, you want to know that that water is going to leach out, okay? So I have one more hole to drill in there, and we're ready to start planting. I'm going to finish this bin by adding soil. This is another Espoma product that we carry. It's formulated especially for raised garden beds. Has good organic matter content to support the plants and to get good performance and fruit production or vegetable production from them. And in this case, you're just going to fill the bin with the raised garden soil. So if it's too heavy for you, you can use a trowel and just scoop it in. If you want to put recyclables in the bottom, you can do that. And that'll allow for a little bit better drainage. You really don't have to fill the whole thing. So if you have some small plastic pots or something, you could fill the bottom and then add your soil. So it's not going to save you a lot. I just found it easier to fill the entire compartment with soil. Okay, so this is just perfect. This is going to make for a really nice garden. So I want to bring it almost to the top. I don't want it to overflow when I water, but I don't want the vegetables to be recessed into the container. Okay? So as we were discussing the best way to plant this out, we have this bottom compartment gets a little bit of shade. So ideally, we're going to use herbs underneath. Today, what I've done is I've pulled some thyme, some parsley, I have sage, some oregano. We're going to do some fennel in there and a rosemary as well as tarragon. So it may sound like a lot of plants, but we want to make this space work for us. So and I've shown others how to do this in some of my previous videos. It's very easy. You just pull the pot off of the plant. Okay, and just bring the soil up around. Make sure you have good contact with the soil all the way around. I want the parsley to get a little more sun, so I'm going to bring it right to the edge. And because we just added the soil, it's very easy to work with. You don't even need any hand tools. The tarragon is going to flow a little bit. It's going to find its way to the sun, so you want to make sure that's up in front. And you'll have to decide at your home whether you want this to be a one-sided garden or if you're going to use all sides. Hopefully you'll be able to use both sides. Either way, you're going to plant it all, and it's more of how you're going to visualize it and see it. And then I'm going to finish with the oregano in this front row. So it's a little linear for my liking, but it's very functional and it's going to maximize your gardening space. And that'll give you time to figure out how to use the herbs in your cooking.
Okay, what's up? Do you ever come across that food, Jill, like Varesca? It's like a...
Okay. Fennel is going to attract the monarchs. This is my thyme. You have to be careful pulling the pot. Always pull the pot off of the plant. And all I'm doing is just working the roots a little bit so they're going to be encouraged to come out. Okay, and I'm going to finish with sage and rosemary. So you may find when you're watering that you can start watering at the top, allow the water to drain through. You may not have to add water to the bottom compartment. Okay, you see how I squeeze the pot to loosen the plant? Okay, so that's how simple it is to plant your herbs. One of the amendments I'm going to use in the soils are earthworm castings. So this is a product we all decided we've had good luck in our own gardens, and we're encouraging people to use this more and more. It increases the soil, improves the soil structure, and therefore it's going to improve the performance of the plants that are installed with it. So you just want to work it in. So like each one of these compartments is going to get about 5 fistfuls or 3 cups. And you just want to mix it down. So this is the Espoma brand of earthworm castings. This is a really good product for structured soil. So this is actually a structured soil for elevated gardens, and you don't have that soil biology that you would have in the ground. So we're trying to simulate that as much as possible. And the earthworm castings do a really good job of helping with that. So I'm just mixing it down in the top 8 inches where the roots are going to grow, right? Roots grow to the side and radially, so they're going to have a really nice place to get established. So as we thought about what to use in this top compartment, we don't want a lot of height. We don't want them blowing over. We don't want to have to use big cages on top. So we elected to do a couple of eggplant and a couple of pepper. And you're just going to spread them out uniformly through the bed. So I'm going to put the eggplants in the corners to give them a little more room. And then I'm using the heirloom peppers for the center, and ring of fire pepper for a little bit of cooking for those of you who want a little zest in the garden. Okay, so just displace the soil, a little bit bigger plant to start with. Okay. Now we're going to have these available at the nursery. If someone doesn't want to take the time to put it together or wants us to plant it for you, we're more than happy to help with that. But it's good to get your hands in there and actually try it yourself. I think it's a little more rewarding. And you tend to take better care of it also. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Okay, so the actual installation is probably the easiest part of this. So I just want to make sure when I plant up close to the sides that I get soil between the plant and the sides of the walls of the compartment. And then we have room, and what you're going to find, these peppers are going to find their way in here. They're going to colonize this whole area and maximize the space just instinctively. So, okay. So most herbs and vegetables come with the tags that you can use as markers to identify what you planted. So I have to use these in my own garden. So the pepper I want to have here, and rings of fire, another eggplant, and rings of fire will be remembered by default. How's that? Okay, so now I finished the second component of my bed. Just clean it up a little bit. Okay, so most of you know who Pam Ireland is. Very knowledgeable when it comes to companion plants and partnering things together. I wanted to take a minute and explain her thought process on this. I think anyone watching this, even if you don't do an elevated garden, these are good principles to use in your own garden. So basil actually has some insecticidal properties. So it helps to repel insects that might find home on the tomato plant. So very often in people that have a lot of experience in vegetable gardening, you'll see the basil is placed around the tomato. Okay. Now this was new to me today. So chamomile, all right, also has some insecticidal properties. It has very good fragrance to it, but it helps to repel the beetles that often will attack cucumbers. So cucumber was selected because it has a trailing property. So you don't need a trellis to climb on. You have a built-in trellis with this compartment. Okay, you can see how it's just finding its way at home. These flowers are going to make the fruit that you're going to get to enjoy later in the summer. Okay, so I have to make room for planting. And we went with 3 chamomile around the cucumber and 3 of the basil around the tomato. Okay, So in my last video, I showed you how it's okay to plant tomatoes deeper, especially when they have a long stem on them. You want to give them time. So all these locations where the branches have died back or been pulled off, they're going to create roots from those cells. That cell tissue will develop roots, but you have to give them a place to do that. So I'm recessing this all the way to the bottom, and I want to bring the soil up pretty close to the top. So I think, yeah, this will work. I'm going to use the rest of my previous bag. Okay, and you know, once you get the plant in there, it may be prudent to just shovel it in a little slower, but you know, to prevent from breaking the tomato. But okay, and again, the reason you don't fill it all the way to the top is you don't want it to flow over, like the dirt and the soil is going to flow over onto your terrace or into the lawn even. It just makes a mess. Okay, so now I'm up high. I centered the tomato because I have plenty of room over here for the cucumber. I probably should have offset this a little bit, but I'm going to leave it for now. And then the cucumber, I want to maintain that height where it is. So just support the plant. The vine's actually pretty hardy. I'm just going to work the roots a little bit. Make sure that they come out of that root mass or that root ball. Okay, so I have good contact all the way around. Onto the sides, and this will correct itself. Like if you miss a little bit as you water, the soil will seek its level and fill in any gaps that may have formed while you were planting. Okay, this is going to grow towards the sun, so that might help you with your placement a little bit. Okay, I'm going to identify the cucumber I planted was a martini cucumber. The basil is going to complement the tomato. So I think the exciting part about this garden is the high yield available in just a 4-foot area. So we're planting vertically, and it's one of the best ways to get a better crop if you have limited area and space at your home. Each year our gardens tend to get a little smaller. I'm going to be doing some more videos talking about some of the dwarf plants that have come into use as ornamentals. But it's a recurring theme year in, year out, and the companies that make these plants put a lot of money and energy and efforts into developing smaller and smaller plants with bigger and bigger flowers, or bigger and bigger vegetable yield in this case. Okay. So I'm using all organic vegetables from our two primary growers, Marion Gardens and Gilberti's. They've been very reliable. We have a lot of inventory here to choose from. This is not the only way to use these gardens. It's a recommendation that you're welcome to replicate. We'll help you here at the store. I think the one caveat is the lower tier. Unless you separate this and make that its own, visible to more sunlight, and it's going to drain out on its own, you should stay with herbs because it's limited space and it's going to get water from the above garden. So let me finish with the chamomile. But this weekend, for all of our Frequent Flower Club members, we're going to reduce the price on all of our vegetables and herbs. So this winter, we made a very conscientious effort to make sure we didn't run out of anything. And I actually bought entire crops from our growers to make sure that we would have plenty for everyone that wants to take part in vegetable gardening. So we have a great selection still, and we're going to make all of this available this weekend. So as long as you're a Frequent Flower Club member, it's going to be 30% off on all vegetables and herbs, whether you're getting the 1 gallon size or if you're using the pints. So all of it's going to be 30% off. It's a really good time to even start your garden. Don't let the high temperatures delay you any further or fool you into thinking that you missed the opportunity. Like, this is going to perform fabulously all year. I'll look forward to sharing the crop with you. But it's a good weekend to come down to Decker's Nursery and let us help you figure out how to partake in some of the vegetable growing your own food. It's a very rewarding way to connect with nature and recognize why plants are so important in our lives. Even though it is a little bit later in the season, I encourage you, it's not too late to plant, but it's so important that you have to remember to water. And that goes for any plants that you're doing. So the only limitation to success is going to be how you take care of these plants after they're installed. So a watering can may be easy, or maybe easier for you depending on your property. If you have a hose, you really want to water to saturation when you water. It may be a couple of trips with the watering can versus using a hose and just flooding the compartments and allowing them to drain. So this will probably start to leach out the bottom in a little bit. But whenever you want to water to saturation, allow it to dry. If you may have to do it every day when it's very hot and warm. If you're getting rainfall, you'll be able to skip one of the cycles, but you'll figure out how often you need to water the plants. And you need to be watching them. They'll tell you if they need water. They'll start to list or wilt. And if you get to them right away, that's fine. They'll pop right back up. But overwatering can be just as damaging. So it's important to let your soil dry out in between. But in the summer, you really can't miss it because the plants can go, they can fail pretty quickly. So anyway, I hope that gives you the encouragement and inspiration to consider doing some vegetable gardening, whether you've done it before and want to just enhance how many plants you have, and try your hand at some vertical gardening. But it's a really good time. Don't let the season or the temperatures dissuade you from getting started. Okay, I'll look forward to seeing you in the garden.